Good evening, I'm Barbara Pinto.
And I'm Chris Bury. Tonight we take an in-depth look at the legacy of Harold Washington.
30 years ago this week, he became Chicago's first African-American mayor.
His election threw a wrench into the Cook County Democratic political machine, inspired the black community, and paved the way for the nation's first African-American president.
I happened to be at a party at Bill Curtis's house, and they were sitting around the table, Bill and Walter, a number of political reporters, and they were discussing who would win the mayor's race, whether it be Jane or Richie. And so I say to them, I said, well, what about a black person becoming mayor?
Veteran Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson says shortly after that exchange, in 1982, he wrote an op-ed piece for the Chicago Tribune entitled, "The Next Mayor of Chicago Could Be Black." It was a bold position to take. At the time, many black voters who supported Mayor Jane Byrne felt she had ignored them, and they were anxious for a change.
People were angry, especially in the African-American community, in the Latino community. They were ready for a leader. Harold sensed it was time to step in there.
Dick Kay covered Chicago politics for decades at NBC5 News. He said Washington was reluctant to run at first. He enjoyed being a U.S. congressman and agreed to run for mayor only after key supporters promised they could raise money and marshal votes.
I think the man was very, very crafty politician.
While they fight over that machine, I shall fight for Chicago.
In 1983, Washington faced enormous odds. He was, after all, a black man running in a Democratic primary against an incumbent mayor, Jane Byrne, and the son of Chicago's legendary mayor, Richard J. Daley.
Harold was so impressive. He blew both Mayor Byrne and Richie Daley away in the debate.
And that was what made people sit up and say, we better pay attention to this guy.
It appears that I have been nominated by the Democratic voters.
With the white vote split between Byrne and Daley, Washington captured the black vote and went on to win the primary. Shortly afterward, many white Democrats became Republicans. Now Washington had to face off against Bernie Epton in the general election, a matchup that highlighted Chicago's racial divide.
If you remember the campaign, Bernie Epton's slogan was Epton before it's too late. That was deliberate. That was aimed at the racism in Chicago.
Washington won by a narrow margin. Once in office, he faced a racially divided city council, the mayor versus the Verdoliak 29, an era made infamous by the council wars, in which white aldermen led by Ed Verdoliak stymied Washington at every turn.
It was despicable, and for 3 years he was captive of the city council.
Paul Green is director of the Institute for Politics at Roosevelt University. He said Mayor Washington found it nearly impossible to push anything through the council until his second term.
When he won re-election in '87, he basically only had 6 or 7 months of really being able to do what he wanted to do in the city of Chicago.
Harold Washington died while in office in 1987, cutting short the life of a legendary politician whose election changed Chicago forever.
I think the Democratic organization was dealt a very, very significant blow with Harold's election.
David Axelrod worked on Washington's re-election campaign in 1987. In a recent panel discussion, he said a straight line can be drawn between Harold Washington and President Obama.
Harold Washington created the political conditions for an independent black candidate to run the kind of candidacy that Barack Obama ran. He didn't need the blessing of the Democratic organization. He didn't need the blessing of the machine.
For Paul Green and other analysts, the real significance of Harold Washington's election as mayor is the path he cleared for other minority candidates.
If you're an aspiring Barack Obama, you have a chance, or other African American who want to go statewide. It's no big deal anymore.
There was no longer a glass ceiling for African Americans pursuing political office.
He was a game changer. Whatever he touched, he changed.